Good evening all, welcome to Irons United and welcome to the pre-match show. Just to give you a bit of team news, we've got some interesting team news in for you today, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Maybe not too many surprises, but maybe because of what's happened today, we've heard that Ngakia has turned down yet another deal. Good evening, Nigel. I think we just spoke about that before we went online, and you're saying he's turned down quite a substantial amount of money, and he's definitely off by the looks of it. So it looks like he ain't playing tonight. Well, not looks like, we know he's not playing tonight. Well, he's certainly not starting.
Yeah, so, as we thought, I suppose as these things do, they always go down to the wire, don't they? And it seems like that the club made them, a substantial offer. And, whether who knows what the thinking was behind it, but is the performance that he had against Wolves, I think, showed that there's potential there for the lad. In fact, if we look at probably the 5 games he's played, he's not looked out of his depth. So the club looked at it, probably went back up their offer from whatever it was to whatever it was. There's loads of figures being bandied about. God knows what's true. But apparently it was a substantial offer and the answer was still no. So it can only lead us to believe that he's already done the deal as he's entitled to and go elsewhere.
That's right. So let's give you the team news. No surprise in goal, Fabianski. Fredericks is right back. Balbuena comes back into the fray alongside Diop. Creswell at left back. Bowen retains his place at right midfield. Mark Noble retains his place as well. And alongside him, Declan. We've got Souček in, Fornals and Antonio. So a couple of changes there. Anderson has dropped. And Rice goes back into midfield. Balbuena comes in, and Fredericks out on the right. So 2 changes, primarily in defence. How do you think we're going to line up tonight? How do you think we're going to? Are we going to take it to Spurs, or are we going to do much the same as we did against Wolves on Saturday and just sort of sit back?
I suppose if you look at that team, it's a touch more defensive. But then again, if the way it's going to be a battle in midfield, and I suppose we do need Declan. Declan for me is probably our best centre half, but we really do need him in the centre of midfield because he's probably our best centre midfielder as well.
And that's the massive irony, isn't it? Where do you play?
And Anderson, for whatever reason, he's not doing it. Does he want to leave? Who knows? But there doesn't seem to be anything about his play. He goes missing for predominantly most of the game. He got took off. We brought Lanzini in. A straight like-for-like swap against Wolves. Didn't do anything, did it? So he's trying something different to shore up the middle. And, who knows whether that will be an improvement or not.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have to. I was kind of worried on Saturday that we were going to be outplayed in midfield. It didn't quite happen because Wolves, they weren't really. I said this a couple of times. They didn't really shift a gear, did they? They just sort of, they played their game. It was fairly easy for us. For them, sorry. They didn't seem to have to need to shift into second gear, but. I can see why Moyes has brought Rice back into midfield because you're absolutely right. We need that combativeness in midfield, and we know that Souček is a box-to-box midfielder. So perhaps what he's thinking is, you've got Rice and you've got Noble, sitting tight, and let Souček do that roaming, back to front, defending when needed. Helping out in attack when needed. Maybe having those 3 players in the middle frees up Fornals, frees up Bowen a bit more to maybe support Antonio up front. Does worry me though that yet again, and no disrespect to Antonio, we've got Antonio a striker with when he's not really a striker. So that's the bit that kind of concerns me. But yeah, I think you're right about midfield. I think having Declan in there is a good thing. Well, what do you think about Balbuena? How do you think he must be feeling that he wasn't regarded good enough to play against Wolves, and now he's back in the team? What do you think Moyes has said to him? Show me what you're worth. Show me that you're worthy of staying at West Ham. What sort of pep talk must he have given him after dropping him on Saturday?
Well, we'd like to think that that's what's happened. That this is Balbuena's chance. I don't think he's really been terrible, but there's obviously been problems at the back with him playing when he's been there. And Diop's always looked the more solid player. When he first came in, we didn't know much about him, did we?
No, we didn't.
signed him from a Paraguayan team, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Or he is Paraguayan.
Or he is Paraguayan. We got him from somewhere in South America, obviously scattered from Husilos. And, for the price we paid for him, you could see he stood up and he was very, very decent player. After season 1 into season 2, his form sort of dipped. But then again, didn't the old team's form dipped? So
it did, and I mean, he came in pretty quietly. I mean, we all thought for the 3 or 4 million we paid for him, we thought, well, he's going to be a squad player, isn't he? I don't think anyone really thought he was going to be a first team player. I think he was thrust into it because we didn't seem to really have much choice. And I think he impressed us at first because we weren't expecting much. We kind of thought, well, he looks decent. He's not the greatest central defender, but he looks like he's up for the battle. He looks like he's in for it. And but you're right, Diop seemed to be the better defender of the two. But there were times when Diop kind of blew hot and cold last season, and it looked like Balbuena for a couple of games looked like the more solid defender. But I think what was happening last season, there were so many changes in defence. I can't remember how many different players they were in defence, in the centre of defence. We never had a solid, a regular two. And of all the players that we had Diop and Balbuena for a regular period of time. Then Ogbonna came back in and he was regular for a period of time. And it seemed to be sort of fluctuating quite a bit. So I think it is his opportunity to show what he can do. He needs to step up. But again, I don't think he's the only player that needs to step up. I think there's quite a few players tonight that need to show what they're worth, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, quickly on Balbuena, the benefit for him is that he's going to have Rice in front of him.
True. Yeah.
So hopefully, that will mean less coming in directly at him, where generally when central defenders attack through the middle, if they're not the greatest on the ball, that's where they're going to be found wanting. I mean, the strange thing, when you look back at one point, it looked like Ogbonna was on his way out. Now it looks like he's going to be Hammer of the Year.
Absolutely.
The problem I find is that we seem to only have 3 central defenders when realistically you should have had 4. So whether it was always they were looking at Rice possibly dropping back, I don't know. But every time or a few times that he's dropped back, we miss him in the centre of midfield because we haven't got that rock in the middle. Noble is not that type of player anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree. What about Bowen and Fornals tonight? Do you think by having that more solid midfield, do you think they are going to be given the opportunity to go further forward, or are they going to be asked to? Because it's interesting. One thing back about Wolves on Saturday, we had an awful lot of attack-minded players on the pitch, and we did hardly any attacking. And we've dropped one of them tonight. We've dropped Anderson tonight. Excuse me. The cat's going to knock everything over. So why don't you go over there? We dropped one of them tonight. We dropped Anderson from the game tonight. But what will Moyes say to those front players? Will he say you've got enough defensive thinking players on the pitch for those 3 players to go out and attack? Will he expect Bowen and Fornals to be closer to Antonio?
I don't think that's Moyes' way of playing, is it? Realistically,
I'm kind of clutching, mate.
I know the way you're describing it, you would be saying if you're going to take formation-wise, would be a genuine 4-3-3.
Yeah,
but we know that's not.
Thinking of that.
We know that's not Moyes, so he's going to be looking for a 4-5-1. The problem you got for me is out wide, you haven't got a lot of protection for the fullbacks because both Fornals and Bowen are very attack minded.
Yeah.
The problem for me is Fornals, where he's so young, I don't think he's still got a grip with that wide position and tracking back. And I think the weakness will be on Fornals' side, coming at Fredericks. Because Bowen, being more used to an English style of play, especially in the Championship, will know that he's got defensive duties as well as attacking duties.
Yeah, but we do have players that have done that. I mean, we do. Anderson, I know he looks like he can't be bothered, but the one thing that he has done, which he kind of doesn't get sort of acknowledged for, is that at times when he's played at left midfield, he has covered at the back. The one thing that he has done in the past, he has sort of dropped back. He's not the greatest of. We know he jumps out of tackles and stuff like that, but he does do that sort of duty. And even ironically, even Yarmolenko, when he was fit, he's an attack-minded player. But again, he dropped back. So, I mean, Bowen and Fornals have got a bit of pace about them. Bowen probably more than Fornals, but. I think you're right. I mean, I dread to think that we will just sit back and allow Spurs to come at us tonight, because I think that will be the worst thing. And I know people are talking about, this is we can take a hit and it doesn't really matter about the Spurs game. But if we do lose tonight, 7 games left, and I know, mate, you've said it as well. Well, then we need to go on, and after the Chelsea game, we focus on what we've got left. But shouldn't we go out and at least have a go tonight? And even if we lose, at least we can turn around and say it's about the performance as well, isn't it? It's about the performance to start giving you a bit of momentum. And if we sit back, isn't that going to just sort of like carry on into the next game and the next game, and that feeling that we're not going to ever go forward? Or
yeah, if you look at before the lockdown, the fan base was feeling more confident of us staying up, even though the results didn't back that up, because we'd still only had 1 win since like January. But the reason for that is because we'd looked at the performance against Liverpool. We then beat Southampton, but the performance against Arsenal was not a disgrace. We were unlucky to lose that game.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there was 2 games against 2 top clubs, even though Arsenal may be on the slide. But anyway, 2 top clubs. And the performances were really good. After the Liverpool game, we got beat 3-2, but everybody was so upbeat about it. Now, I know losing to Spurs is always hard, but if you could put that performance in, get a draw, get a win, but if we put that performance in and get a loss, it does make things better. It's all about progression. I suppose, in theory, you could write off the first 3 games and then look at the Burnley game after. I mean, look what happened to Burnley last night. Got a heavy tank in. So, and Burnley have hit that mid-table mediocrity spot that we've done for years, where at the end of the season, they just want to get it done. They're not going to go, they're probably not going to get into Europe. They're definitely not going to go down. Let's just play our games.
Yeah.
We've seen it as West Ham fans a few times. So, hopefully we'll catch them in that mindset. The problem you get is if you have a bad defeat after bad defeat after bad defeat, even though we're going into the easier games, your mentality is shot. Last night on Monster's podcast, I pointed out, under Avram Grant, the last time we got relegated, we had a spate of 7 games where we played Man United in the March, and then we lost to them 2-0 up at half-time, lost 4-2. We then had 7 difficult games with Man City, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal. And then our last 3 games were the 3 games that I thought would keep us up. Yep. And that was Villa, Wigan, Sunderland. And it got to the point where instead of picking up points or playing well, we lost all those preceding 7 games.
And the same thing could happen this season, mate.
That's what I'm saying. Then we got the Villa, we drew 2-2, we went to Wigan 2-0 up, lost 3-2. We were relegated. The Sunderland game meant nothing. Where realistically, if we'd have won them 2 games, we could have gone into the Sunderland game to get a point to stay up. Didn't happen. And that's my thinking as well. So that I think, people say, to talk. Just because it's Spurs and just because it's Chelsea next doesn't mean we have to just roll over and take it. If we do put in a decent performance tonight, who knows? I mean, first team to win at their new ground last season, and we put in an excellent performance last season. Absolutely, wonderful performance. And if we do that again tonight, it gives the team that spirit, doesn't it? It gives them a little bit of, well, hang on a minute.
Next game, we played well there, whether we won or not, or drew or whatever it may be. We played well. Let's go on to Chelsea at home, and then pick that momentum up from there. We go. Let's have a look at the Spurs team. Lloris, Aurier, Dyer is back in defence again. Sanchez, Davis, Sissoko, Lo Celso, Dele Alli's back. Lucas, Son, and Kane. It's not a bad team, is it?
It's attack minded with Lucas, Son, and Kane. It's sort of a match-up, possibly with a 4-3-3. I'm glad Dyer's at the back. Let's target him.
Absolutely,
he has got a loose foot.
Yeah,
and he got away with one penalty. Well, not got away with it. It weren't a penalty, but it was really close though. But because he hung his foot out.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, so I'd be saying to Bowen and Fornells, get in and around Dyer, try and make the movement to see if he'll bring you down. Yeah. He's got that rash tackle in him.
Yes, I totally agree. But you're absolutely right. That does look like a very attack-minded team. And when it comes to midfield, it looks like from what Moyes has done, let's give him a little bit of credit by having Declan, having Souček, and having Noble in there. We can give as good as we're getting in midfield. They've got a few players like Sissoko. He gets about a bit, so I think we can match him in midfield tonight at the very least. I'm going to start being positive now and start seeing what we can do with this team, because if they do go for attack-minded, Ali, Son, and Kane up front, we could do something in midfield. Get the better of them in midfield tonight. There you go. That's my positivity. Now we had someone put up the bench. So we got Randolph, Johnson, Ogbonna, Wiltshire, Yarmolenko, Anderson, Lanzini, Silva, and Ayeti. So we've got 3 attack-minded players. Well, 4 attack-minded players. Well, 5 actually. When I look at it again. So we got Yarmolenko, Anderson, Lanzini, Silva, and Ayeti, all attack-minded players. Do you think any of them will get a bit longer than just 9 minutes tonight, or is it going to be? Is David going to go with what he did the other day and put 2 players on right at the end of the game when it's too late?
I think it depends the way the game goes, really, doesn't it? To be fair,
yeah, I know.
We know Moyes probably hasn't really got much of a plan. If we're being honest, come on. I'm going
to look for the comment that he made earlier. So you carry on talking.
You look at them subs bench, and that's really all he can do. I heard Ngaki was going to be on the bench, but I think that says it all, doesn't it? Really, yeah. That says it all we need to know. We gave him the game against Wolves and said to him, look, you possibly could be our number 1 right back, and he's not took it. I mean, the thing with Spurs is they weren't that great against Man United, and we've got not that bad a record against Mourinho's teams.
No, we ain't actually. Yeah.
So, and with Mourinho, if he goes 1-0 up, he don't really go for the kill. So he always leaves a team with a chance. I got the text today from my nephew. He asked me what I think. I said, well, we could win, but I could see us getting a draw or even losing. And that's the way I see it. I could probably create a 2-minute argument for each scenario and why I would think that. I think we win because sometimes when we are down, that's when we pull out this performance. Normally against Tottenham, when we're not expecting it, Tottenham ain't playing that well. A draw is that both teams nullify. We could be defensively under Moyes. Mourinho's not for some reasons no longer an attack-minded. And then obviously defeat, when you look at their front 3, that's a front 3 to be worried about in a way.
Yeah. I'm going to read out what Moyes said earlier today, because I'm a bit confused by it about substitutions when he was asked about subs. I think we have got substitutes we know that can make the difference, but we have other ones we need to play at different moments in the game. As you have probably read, I was not in favour of 9 substitutes. I had my own reasons, and it's wrong to change the rules halfway through the season. That doesn't mean, David, that you don't have to make the bloody subs. But anyway, we'll get, don't worry about that. We have people coming back from injury that we haven't seen enough. Some of them can do with the game time if they can get it. But in the position we're in, I can't just give people opportunities out of the blue. They need to be ready and at the right level as we need to pick up points. I find that confusing. He's talking about we've got players that can make a difference. He's talking about we've got players that need game time, and then he's more or less confirming that he's not likely to give people game time because they haven't got game time, and it sounds a bit. It sounds a bit confusing to me, that statement. I don't quite know, and the fact that he's upset that we can allow 5 subs is almost like, well, I know we can, but I'm just gonna piss you all off and not put 5 subs on.
Well, what he's done there is he's covered all the bases, isn't he? So he's literally put a reason why he would play people, but then why he's not playing people.
Why he's not playing them? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, going back to our bench. In theory, with Anderson and Lanzini, you would think at some point he's looking to get them involved. The problem I had with Moyes is, I think we spoke about it after the game, Saturday after the Wall games. The problem I had with Moyes was he took Anderson off and brought Lanzini on, who literally did slot in like for like, because we didn't really see a lot of Lanzini. Yeah. He took off Ngakia and brought on Fredericks like for like. It weren't working. It just went like for like.
Yeah.
When you're playing like that, you need to change the formation, change the system, not just the faces.
Exactly.
And that's what I'll be looking for. In his defence of only using 3 at the weekend, in my minion job as Sean's little yellow friend, I did a bit of research and found out over half the clubs didn't go for the full 5. So he wasn't alone.
I'm not suggesting that he has to make 5 subs, but I think you're absolutely right. It's not a case of making the subs just out of the sake of making them, but make the substitutions that are going to make a difference. Did you see the comment? Yeah, make the substitutions that are going to make a difference, and I think that's what we're hoping for tonight. So, I mean, what I'm really looking for tonight, if anything, is he makes a positive change up front. If we're doing all rightish in midfield, if we're doing all rightish in defence, but we're not sort of getting the breaks that we need, that's what I think he needs to do. And he's got Yarmolenko that can play up front. He's done it for Ukraine. I know he's not like favoured by anyone. I don't really favour him, and I have advocated for Xande Silva. Why not put the lad on? Who knows? Unknown.
If it's 0-0 after 75 minutes, what are you doing still?
If it's 0-0 after 75 minutes, well, if I was David Moyes, I'd be thinking that's a point. But that's the most scary time, because you don't rest on your laurels. And I think if it's 75 minutes, you keep it tight, but maybe make a change up front. Take Antonio off and put Yarmolenko on, or put Xande Silva on, and see what they can do. If it's 0-0, because that doesn't change your formation that has got you to 0-0 at 75 minutes. You still got your back 4, you still got your midfield 4 or your midfield 5, and then just make a change up front and see what happens. What about you? If it's 0-0 at half time, if it's 0-0 at 75 minutes, what would you do? Will you have one eye on that point, or?
Yeah, to be fair, because of the structure of how it is down there at the bottom, that 1 point could be the difference of keeping you up.
But so isn't it worrying to rest on your laurels on 1 point? But think about it. When did Wolves score? They scored in the 76th minute or something like that.
71st, I think.
71st minute.
Yeah.
So he was probably thinking the same on Saturday, mate. He was probably thinking we're on a point here, which is why he didn't make a tactical change that he should have done. That's what I'm thinking, but.
Yeah, I suppose when we look at it in the car, it's easy to go, what would we do actually?
Yeah.
As a question, you would like to think you're going to respond as well from what you're viewing on the pitch when you're standing there and on the touchline and looking at the players, and you can see that it's just not working. And that's why I'm a bit wary. I think there's not been enough for him, not enough time for him to work on. How do you get? It'll be interesting to see how do we get from that performance, which is probably as poor as we can be. Let's be honest about it. It was probably as poor as we can be, to getting a performance where we can go and win against Tottenham.
Yeah. Well, the performance is going to be found out tonight, isn't it? So now that you've seen the team, well, both teams, what's your prediction? Have you changed your mind, or what do you think tonight?
No, I still think we'll lose.
Well, I'm going to be
ever the optimist.
well, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say we're going to get a draw out tonight. I mean, if we get a win, I think we'll all erupt, won't we? We'll think we're
Yeah.
staying up. But I think we might be able to. I think that team it looks more solid. That some players have got to perform. Fredericks has got to show up. Balbuena's got to show up. Creswell's got to tighten up. I think Rice and Souček alongside Noble is going to help Noble to drive us on. And I want to see Bowen and Fornals get much closer to Antonio. So
I think we're weak down the wings, though.
No, we don't have a lot. We don't, but Spurs don't play that way either, do they? Really? So
well, let's hope not.
Well, they haven't got a Traore on the bench, or have they? So we'll see. All right, people. Someone asked to call him out. Happy birthday. I'm trying to find your comment, and so whoever it was, happy birthday, mate. Ian Barron, that's it. No, we haven't done the ironing. There's a chap that's sort of like trolling us. Guy called Sean someone. I don't know if you know him. If you've ever heard of him, mate.
Sean Shilstone. Is it him?
Yeah, he told me to ask you something about the Bundesliga, but I heard all that last night in more than just a podcast. So if you want to hear what happened in the Bundesliga, because Sean is bragging, because he second or something in the
Super Six, but that's the football. That's the whole football season challenge. Yeah,
right.
He is bragging, and he thinks he's going to get a prize if he wins, and he ain't. or if he wins and he wants the prize, I'll make him wait as long as I've waited for all the stuff he promised me when we were still at the Boleyn. That's all bagged up in his flat or wherever it is he's residing.
Well, anyway, everyone, let's hope we have a really good game tonight. Let's all enjoy it. There is going to be a watch along later, so do tune into that. But there'll be a review afterwards as well. So come on, and we'll talk. How David Moyes is the master tactician who has got one over on Mourinho tonight. So tune in for that. Let's hope we get a win. Come on, you irons and all that stuff, and subscribe and.
Oh, you just done it still. What was that?
What did I do? What was that? Come on,
oh,
there you
mate,
go. There you go. There you go. And Sean went off.
Me doing that. Dear, oh dear.
Sean went off and said boo.
Yeah.
Right. Speak to you all later.
See you later.
Nigel, thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Chat later, mate.
Bye, mate.